السنة مثل سفينة نوح، من ركبها نجا ومن تركها غرق.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله، وكفى بالله شهيدا، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Amma ba'd. As to what proceeds, in our previous meeting we were discussing the etiquettes of seeking knowledge, adabu talab al-ilm. And as we are currently still in the early stages or in the beginning stages of studying the book al-Usul al-Thalathah, the three fundamental principles or the three foundations, and we have been discussing a few important issues which will not only be beneficial for those who are attending this lesson or this subject, but with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will also be beneficial in all the other subjects that they study. The people of knowledge, they said, وَتَحْصِيلُ الْعِلْمِ لَا يَتِمُّ لِطَالِبِ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا عَلَى أَرْبَعِ رَكَائِزٍ. To obtain and achieve Islamic knowledge is not possible except with four foundational issues. In our previous lesson, we discussed the first foundational issue, which is al-Ishraf al-Ilmi, supervision of seeking knowledge. I highlighted the importance for a seeker of knowledge or a student of knowledge to have a mentor, to have a teacher, to have a shaykh who is firmly grounded and who is able to mentor and supervise the seeker of knowledge or the student of knowledge, so that the student of knowledge takes the right path and course when it comes to seeking knowledge. And I mentioned that one of the downfalls that we have here in the West amongst the people of the Sunnah is the absence of this foundation, al-Ishraf al-Ilmi. When we look at the heretics, the people of Bid'ah, then we have that they do have this mechanism built within their platforms by them establishing institutes, Darul Ulooms, etc., where al-Ishraf al-Ilmi is conducted and practiced and implemented by them. But قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. When it comes to the Salafis of the West, then we do not have this present amongst ourselves. And it is for this reason that we see many of the students of knowledge who start to seek knowledge, they become lost in the wilderness. 1 minute they are doing this, and the other minute they are doing this. 1 minute they want to study this text, the other minute they want to study this text. They are jumping from teacher to teacher, subject to subject, from course to course. And this is a problem that we have in the West. And I don't know if the people will acknowledge this here, or the students that are present here will acknowledge this point that I am bringing up, or is it just me having a delusion? We see many of the people that when they start to seek knowledge, they have great enthusiasm, but then they lose their way or they become lost due to the fact that they don't have a mentor who can mentor them and guide them, or that they can refer back to. Now, then we talked about the second foundational issue, which was really important, which was التدرج في الدراسة وتنظيم القراءة, which was step-by-step and progressive studies and organized reading. And I explained that in the West we have this delusion, or people seem to think in the West that talab al-ilm is like a degree. So if you go and study at a university, whether it's Medina University or whether it's any other university, then when you graduate, you've become a sheikh. And they think that they equate talab al-ilm with a fixed duration of time, and they equate it like a degree. Talab al-ilm is not a degree. But talab al-ilm is an act of ibadah, and talab al-ilm is continuous even after you graduate. Rather, one of the scholars, when I went to see him after I graduated, he said to me that now you have just put your foot down in the arena of seeking knowledge. Your talab al-ilm now starts after you have graduated. Well, we have a lot of these new graduates who think that after they have graduated from the Islamic university, now they are those who are fit enough to talk on certain issues when they hardly passed their studies and their exams. And that is a reality of many of them, illa rahimahullah. I don't want to generalize, but this is the reality of, I'm talking about these standards that I have seen in my 22, 23 years at the Islamic University of Medina. That's why you see many of them have not even graduated. They're in the second, some of them were in the Arabic Language Institute. They were in Mahad al-Lugha, and they were talking about issues which would be discussed only by those students of knowledge who have been studying for years. These guys, they wanted to throw their 20 pencils in, and you still see many of them. They haven't even graduated, and they are touring the world and giving lectures here and speaking about this issue and speaking about that issue. So, at-tadarruj fi dirasa, gradual and progressive studies, is absent from amongst these people. Illa man rahimahullah, except for the one who Allah has mercy. So this is what we discussed in our previous lesson. Does everybody remember what we discussed, and can you recall what was discussed? Because some important issues were discussed which may not be discussed by others in the English language, which are relative to you students of knowledge who reside and live in the West, in Baladul Kafar. The third issue which we're going to talk about today, the third foundation, is what we call an-nahmatu fi talab al-ilm. An-nahmatu fi talab al-ilm. The third foundation, which is the zeal and enthusiasm to seek knowledge without it dying out or decreasing. This is the third important point for a student of knowledge, that the enthusiasm and the zeal for seeking knowledge should always be on an increase. It can be seen that whenever you start a new course or a new subject or a new book to teach, you have about a few hundreds of people or a great number of people, of students, signing up for the course. Then after 2 or 3 lessons, you see the number decreasing, because the interest of that subject is lost. The interest and the zeal for seeking knowledge is lost. And I have noticed this التتبع والاستقراء, meaning that I have noticed this consistently, that this is a great weakness that can be found amongst the students of knowledge in the West. That they come and they want to seek knowledge. They're all fired up and geared up of seeking knowledge. After 2 or 3 weeks, they're nowhere to be seen. Dropped out. And they don't want to study. The same happens at the Islamic University of Medina. If you look at the stats of the Islamic University of Medina, the Western students have the worst reputation at the Islamic University of Medina. The Western students are known for failing and being absent, dropping out. And now in 2021, the Western students at the Islamic University of Medina, you will find them in إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ, except for whom Allah has mercy. Like, I'm not saying that, please know that I'm not generalizing. I don't want somebody to misquote me. But this has been seen by many, except for whom Allah has mercy. So I'm in no way generalizing, but I have seen this increasing, and which is a worry. That you see them in coffee shops and in places where you wouldn't find the students of knowledge being there and chilling out in such places. In fact, there's a graduate who I knew and who I saw. He even done a course called the fiqh of chilling. What did he call it? The fiqh of chilling. I was shocked when I saw such nonsense, because students like these perceive they're given a great golden opportunity, being from a minority within a minority and being accepted at the Islamic University to come and study. And they see this just as another degree. So what happens when you're studying at a Western university? People go, they go to coffee shops, and people go, they chill and they relax. It's like a degree. And then just before the exams, you study. Everybody knows about university life. So these are the problems that we have within the Western students. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rectify these affairs. And one of the reasons, after contemplating, when seeing the reality of such students at the Islamic University of Medina, is that they don't have al-Ishraf al-Ilmi. You don't see any of these type of people that I have mentioned. And I say this bil-jazmi wal-yaqeen, with conviction and certainty. You don't see these type of people frequently in the gatherings, the majalis of the people of knowledge, and making al-mulazamatu shadida, being with the people of knowledge and referring back to them and accompanying them. And these type of students are known. So this is a problem that we have, that the enthusiasm or the zeal for seeking knowledge decreases. Studies at the Islamic University of Medina just becomes a good time for chilling and doing a degree. So it wouldn't be that much of a difference if somebody was to be studying chemistry or whether he was studying Islamic fiqh. If he was quoting scholars from Islamic fiqh, then he would be quoting scholars from chemistry and learning their arguments and their opinions and their evidences. إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ, except for whom Allah has mercy. So this is the problem that we have. This problem that stems from the West in the environment that we live in is a continuation up to the Islamic University of Medina. That's why many shuyukh or scholars or teachers or professors that I have spoken to have always addressed this issue with me with regards to Western students. So either you have those who are just bothered about marks. All you see them is they just want to know how much marks. They want to get marks. So you have either those who are absent, either those who fail their exams, either those who are out there chilling and see this as a degree, and you have either those who are just concerned about it being a degree and having a first-class honors degree, etc. These are the problems that we have as Western students at the Islamic University of Medina. And the zeal and the enthusiasm for seeking knowledge dies, or is dead by the time they arrive, or it's not even there, because they do not refer back to the people of knowledge. They have no al-Ishraf al-ilm, no supervision when it comes to them seeking knowledge. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rectify our affairs. I don't know whether somebody may think that I'm being very harsh in what I'm saying, but I'm just speaking statistically, and I'm speaking of what I have witnessed. Because many of these students that I know personally have been kicked out at the Islamic University of Medina and have contacted me to intercede for them. And I have interceded for many of them. And if you were to know the discussions that took place between me and the professor or the dean, who is the head of the department, you would be shocked with some of the things that were said. That I would not believe a student of knowledge who has left his home, left his parents, possibly if he's married, left his wife and children, and this is them. But I see, alhamdulillah, that those who have left their children and their wives, their maturity is much more. I'm talking about all these bachelors that we have. Most of them, 90% or 95% of them, are those who are single and live within the campus of the university. So going back to the topic which I am discussing is that when you start to seek knowledge, one of the foundations that must be embedded within yourself and be firmly rooted within yourself is zeal and enthusiasm to seek knowledge. If the urge is dying out, or it's decreasing, or you are no longer fond of seeking knowledge, then this is a problem. So the student of knowledge should be connected to seeking knowledge with intensity, love and eagerness for it. The student of knowledge should seek knowledge with diligence and persistency. So the soul of the student of knowledge, the ruh of the talib al-ilm, is nourished. The tarbiyah of it is made with the aspiration of always wanting to increase seeking knowledge. And his or her soul should never feel that it's full, that it's completely nourished. Meaning it acknowledges that it is in need of it. The soul is in need of knowledge forever, just like oxygen. So knowledge needs to be acquainted. Knowledge needs to be acquainted with oxygen. Oxygen is something which we need from the time we are born till we die. If oxygen stops, we are dead. So the soul, just like it is dependent upon oxygen, the soul remains within the body until the body is given oxygen. If the oxygen stops, the soul departs the body. The seeker of knowledge never feels full, meaning it, like I said, it acknowledges that it is in need of knowledge forever, like oxygen. The seeker of knowledge is always thinking on learning new things, to the extent that many of the permissible things of this world that he or she desires and loves are forgotten. So let me give you an example. And I used to think about this, that a lot of the students of knowledge, when they enter into the arena of seeking knowledge, when you see the student of knowledge, when he enters the arena of seeking knowledge, he has, just like any other human being, he has some desires. For example, he may want to wear nice clothes. He may want to have some things of the dunya which are permissible. Nice shoes, a nice car to drive, a nice house to live in. These are all things which are permissible. But sometimes it so happens that a true devotee student of knowledge is somebody who everything that he desires, which is marghoob, something which he wants and desires, due to the focus of seeking knowledge, he becomes distracted of wanting those things which are permissible. So all this becomes irrelevant to him now. So he is probably smart and who can do business, and he wanted to do business, but because now he's so focused in his study. So that means that his enthusiasm and his focus makes a detour. He turns away from this. She turns away from this and just wants to do only one thing, and that is to seek knowledge. If someone does this without exaggerating, without being negligent, then this is something which is praiseworthy. So this is how we should be. We should be that even those things that which we have in the dunya and interest, the seeking of knowledge should preoccupy us to the extent that we don't really give that importance that we would have liked to give those things which are permissible in the dunya. The only thing that we have on the top of our list, on the top of our shelf, is to seek knowledge. Am I making any sense? If the brothers understand what I'm trying to, and sisters understand what I'm trying to say here. So those things are permissible. If you do those things, then nobody is going to say to you. So for example, somebody will just dress up simple, have some good food to eat, that which will keep him going, and not be really bothered, not look at the nitty-gritty issues, and not even be bothered about if he has a phone which is simple, which is smart and works. He's not bothered about the top of the range phone. Although he would like it, it's something which he would like, but due to him giving importance of seeking knowledge, he's not bothered if he gets, an iPhone 13 or 14 or 12, whatever it is, or whatever is the latest thing, which is permissible if you have the money and you're able to afford it. If it doesn't come under israf and extravagance, then you're able to buy those things because they're from the dunya, and Allah has permitted you for Allah's best to do that. But this is something which is very important for us to understand. So we should understand that so the seeker of knowledge is always thinking on learning new things. The most important thing for the student of knowledge is to learn new things about the religion, to the extent that he's always concerned about increasing his knowledge and learning new things, but even those things which are permissible from this world that he desires or she desires and loves are forgotten. Imam al-Hasan al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala said, he said, منهومان لا يشبع منهوم في العلم لا يشبع منه ومنهوم في الدنيا لا يشبع منها رواه الدارمي. When Imam Al-Hasan al-Basri, when he talked about al-manhamah, he said two things a person is fond of, he will never be satisfied with the amount he has of it. Two things in the world. Two things. The fond of seeking knowledge. He will always want to continue seeking knowledge. Knowledge will never fill his soul and heart. And the fond of wanting worldly things. As you can see, that in the dunya, when people, you see them that they have an iPhone 7 and then they want an iPhone 8 and then they want an iPhone 9 and then they want an iPhone 10 and then they want an iPhone 11 and then they want an iPhone 12. Allahu Alam, we don't know whether one day iPhone will reach 100. iPhone number 100. But the things in a la yashbah is never satisfied, never full when it comes to the things of the dunya. You want something, you have that, you want something greater. You want this, you want something greater. You want this, you want something. This is how the dunya operates. Yes or no? In the very same way, the thing which is manhum in the religion is talab al-ilm. So the key point to remember when seeking knowledge is that you are never satisfied with how much knowledge you have. You always want to increase knowledge. La yashfa' minhu. The stomach, the heart does not become, or the soul is never nourished fully. There is no such thing as complete knowledge. What requires is that you continue seeking knowledge from the cradle to the grave. You find, when you read the biographies of some of the scholars, whilst before they were dying, just before the sakarat and that before they could stop actually speaking and they lost their speech, you find that many of them are revising and reading hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is something which is very important, and you need to contemplate over the statement of Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah ta'ala, as reported by Imam al-Darimi in his Musnad, that Al-Hasan al-Basri made it clear, two types of people we have in the dunya. Somebody whose hum is the dunya, meaning that whatever he is given or she is given, no matter how much is given, there's always the urge or the fond of having something more. And then the other person who's chosen, whose lane or whose path and whose way is the path of knowledge, then that person is never satisfied. If there is no satisfaction, then that means that there is always going to be deficiency and some room for increasement. And that's what a talib al-ilm should be like. A talib al-ilm should always want to increase that knowledge he has. So Hasan al-Basri said, two things a person is fond of, he will never be satisfied with the amount he has of it. The fond of seeking knowledge and the fond of wanting worldly things. So what helps? Somebody asked that, how do you obtain this persistency, this zeal and enthusiasm? How can I be somebody who is always zealous, who's always somebody who's enthusiastic, who's always somebody who's fond of knowledge? I don't want that enthusiasm or that drive for seeking knowledge to die. I always want it to increase. So the people of knowledge have said that what helps and aids a seeker of knowledge to attain knowledge is to love knowledge and the people of knowledge, and be certain of its lofty virtues and the status of the people of knowledge. قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ. In the West, except for whom Allah has mercy, إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ اللَّهُ, people don't even know who the people of knowledge are. They don't know the scholars. So if they don't know who the scholars are, how can they love them? They know celebrity speakers. They know inspiration speakers. They know YouTubers. They know entertainers. They know jokers. And they know those people who are in reality not worthy of being known. But they don't know the scholars. And this is a problem that can be found in the West. So what helps and aids a seeker of knowledge is to attain knowledge. So a lot of these people that you see who actually attend these Iman boosters and they attend lectures, many of them, not all of them, then the love of knowledge is not there. The love of knowledge and the love for the people of knowledge is not there. If somebody truly had the love for knowledge, then he would want that knowledge. He would want to be like the people of knowledge or be in the company of the people of knowledge. So this is a big downfall. So we need to love knowledge and the people of knowledge and be certain, bil yaqeen, of its lofty virtues and the status of the people of knowledge. Again, we don't know the people of knowledge. So how are we to identify and acknowledge their status and love them? The soul of the seeker of knowledge must have the aspiration to obtain such virtues. So when the soul of the seeker of knowledge knows the status of the people of knowledge, when it knows that what knowledge removes ignorance within oneself, then the seeker of knowledge knows the soul having the aspiration to obtain such virtues, nourishing it by the soul contemplating over the textual proofs of seeking knowledge. So what you need to do is, whenever you feel down and you see that since there's some form of decreasing aspiration for seeking knowledge, then go back to the textual proofs of seeking knowledge constantly. So the soul needs to be fed and nourished about all the things that the Prophet ﷺ said with regards to seeking knowledge, starting with what Allah has mentioned in the Quran, that Allah bear witnesses. شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط. Allah bear witnesses. Allah has bear witnessed that there is no deity or deity worthy of worship in truth except He, and the angels testify to this, and the people of knowledge. So Allah's testifying about His Tawheed, and the angels and the people of knowledge. So this shows that the testimony of Allah is in conjunction, or the testimony of the people of knowledge is in conjunction to the testimony of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the soul having the aspiration to obtain such virtues, nourishing it by the soul contemplating over the textual proofs, the nusus, النصوص الشرعية في طلب العلم, of seeking knowledge constantly regarding its virtues, and Allah loving knowledge and its people who seek it. And a person must have this with firm iman and wahtisaban, and sincerity of what Allah has prepared for them with the noble reward and its great status. So this is what the student of knowledge does. This is his action plan. That how he remains enthusiastic and zealous is to love knowledge and the people of knowledge, and be certain of its lofty virtues and its rewards. And the soul of the seeker of knowledge is fed and nourished by contemplating over the textual proofs constantly, not sometimes, constantly. And then that there must be a connection made with iman and ihtisab and ilm. Iman, having firm belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ihtisab, hoping the reward, and being sincere. So in addition to this, reflecting on the biographies of the scholars. So a person needs to read the biographies of the scholars and the beautiful stories that can be found about them seeking knowledge, and the great and good impact knowledge had upon them. So when you look at these men and women who started as normal people amongst their society and amongst their people, and then you saw that their status became great, their status became lofty, and this was all due to their knowledge and the impact that the knowledge had upon them, and the impact that their knowledge had upon others. If this affection is achieved, then it will be one of the main motives, dawafi', for the student to be able to seek knowledge and assist him in being precise, having itqan, and revise and preserve the knowledge that has been learned. In addition to acting upon it and calling to it. So this is very important on how we perceive knowledge. Somebody asked that, how do we obtain this enthusiasm? How does the zeal for knowledge always be on the increase? I mentioned a few points here. I don't know if they were clear of how reflection, acknowledging, nourishing the soul, and how to go about it. Textual proofs, reading biographies of the scholars, etc. Are these points clear? And how many of us do this? And these are things which have been advised. The nasih has been given to us by the scholars. If we don't follow this action plan and the guidance that has been given to us, then we're going to complain that, I don't feel like seeking knowledge. Sometimes I just don't want to seek knowledge. So the Muhajirun, we all know who the Muhajirun are. The Muhajirun were the first people to accept al-Islam. They are from amongst the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in, and they are amongst those who migrated with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam to Al-Madinah, which was at that time known as Yathrib. The Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in al-Muhajirun, they saw something peculiar with Umar ibn al-Khattab. They saw that Umar ibn al-Khattab would treat Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was a young boy at that time, like a teenager. Probably was a teenager if he was at the latter part of his khilafah. Or you can say he was a young boy. So they see that Umar ibn al-Khattab, Amir al-Mu'mineen, would address and speak to Abdullah ibn Abbas in a very different manner. So they said to him, they said, Amir al-Mu'mineen, why don't you speak to our children and our boys the way you speak to Abdullah ibn Abbas? And the reason why Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn al-Khattab spoke to Abdullah ibn Abbas in that manner was because of his knowledge and his zeal and enthusiasm of seeking knowledge. So what did he say to them? He said to them, when they asked him this, and this has been narrated in the Musannaf of Abdurrazzaq on the authority of Ma'mar from al-Zuhri, Imam al-Zuhri. He said, ذاكم فتى الكهول إن له لسانا سؤولا وقلبا عقولا. That young boy has the quality of being serious and mature. And he has a tongue for seeking knowledge and a heart to understand the knowledge that he learns. That's why I address Abdullah ibn Abbas in the way I address him. I don't see this in your children. Lisan and Sa'ula, always inquiring and seeking knowledge. Always وَقَلْبًا عَقُولًا, always comprehending that which he is learning, asking, verifying. That's why I address Abdullah ibn Abbas like I address. He would address Abdullah ibn Abbas like he would address the scholars. And the Muhajirun said, what about some of them said, what about our children? What about some of our boys? He said, don't think this to be favoritism. This is because something that I have seen in Abdullah ibn Abbas from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam until this day now. So Abdullah ibn Abbas was not somebody who just sought knowledge only during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He continued seeking knowledge after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away from all the other companions. So this in itself is a benefit. But the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in did not cease to seek knowledge from one another after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, regardless of the status that they may have had amongst each other. So is it clear? So is this third foundation now important and clear, that enthusiasm and zeal for seeking knowledge and being fond of seeking knowledge, this can't die within us. Nothing should be a hindrance when it comes to our zeal and our appetite for seeking knowledge increasing. If your appetite is, what happens, when you're eating healthy and all of a sudden you stop eating healthy and you go to the doctor becomes worried. He sees your diet and he sees that you're losing weight. You're not eating properly. So that's how knowledge is. Knowledge is the nourishment of the soul. And it's got the zeal and enthusiasm and the fondness of seeking knowledge cannot be decreased in any way. And this is a problem that we have in the West. And I pray to Allah that He rectifies our affairs. So that was the third principle, the third foundation that I mentioned. The fourth foundation that I want to mention today is al-waqtul kafi. sufficient amount of time for seeking knowledge. Al-Waqt al-Kafi. So we have 24 hours in a day. Now, if every single one of us was to contemplate and reflect with regards to how we utilize those 24 hours, other than the essentials that we have, which is eating, sleeping, and drinking, even that needs to be analyzed. There's too much sleep, excessive sleep, or oversleeping is something which medically even the doctors do not recommend. Fadlan an-din, not even looking at it from a dini aspect or perspective. So, sufficient amount of knowledge. Do we think that we're going to become scholars by sitting in our living room in front of our laptops and having cups of coffee and seeking knowledge? Do we really think that this is enough time that we spend? And do you think that real knowledge is going to come to us? So let's see what the ulama have to say with regards to this particular foundation. So the first thing that the scholars, they say that sufficient amount of time must be devoted in seeking knowledge. The student of knowledge must not be hasty when it comes to seeking knowledge. Rather, he should be patient. He should have sabr. And understand that seeking knowledge requires sufficient amount of time. The reason for this is that the required time and sufficient amount of time will result in seeking knowledge properly and correctly. So we find this problem amongst them. This is another problem that we find in the West. Everybody thinks that seeking knowledge can be fast-tracked. So, you have a lot of these courses, understand the tafsir of the Quran in 10 days and become a faqih in 3 weekends. And if you do this course, you'll master this. Have you seen these courses out there? Where these advertisements, and you find a lot of these people, they tell you that, in a few weekends and in a few seminars, you'll find, you'll be able to be a person who understands Usul. So then you find people who are seeking knowledge, that they learn a few principles here and there. Some scattered principles here, some scattered principles here, and now khalas, they think, whoa, they're on a level. They have some knowledge. But this is not how knowledge works. This is not how, now there's no such thing as knowledge being restricted to a degree, a piece of paper, or knowledge being restricted, or knowledge can be fast-tracked, or knowledge can be learned with bundles. Now you've got these bundles and these flashy courses, and you see some of the courses, and I've seen this. And you see that the curriculum that has been put together shows the ignorance of such people. If the curriculum is out of place, then just imagine how their knowledge must be. And just imagine then how their delivery will be. And then not even talking about whether those who are delivering this are qualified or not qualified. So some people think that we're very critical. Well, we're not critical. We have a criteria and we have standards. If the criteria and the standards are dropped, you drop them independently and don't follow them, then why do you have a problem if I speak then? Why do you have a problem if I speak or somebody else spoke? Do the students understand what I'm trying to say here? If you're going to present knowledge to the people in a manner which is going to make them feel that knowledge can be a fast-track thing. You can become a scholar by studying on weekends. You can become a person of knowledge by doing X, Y, and Z. That's going, or that opposes that which the criteria has been set for centuries. Now who's making the trouble here? Am I the one? If I speak out about this, so who's making the problem here? Am I making the problem? I would like to ask. if I was to speak, if somebody genuinely asked me about these courses, and based upon this foundation, I gave an analysis, and if that was to be put up on social media, or if I was to post this, hell would break loose and a world war would be declared upon myself because of being critical. So, but the reality of the fact is that I don't make the rules. I am somebody who wants to implement that criteria which has been set by the scholars. And I say that al-waqtul kafi is an important ingredient when it comes to seeking knowledge. Let's not make al-ilmu shari, which is an act of ibadah, like a fast track or a degree like chemistry or mass communication or law, kafir law or something like that. Let's not equate it like that. Let's not perceive it. Let's not present it like that, because it's not like that. Would I be wrong in doing so if I was to stand up against those who are trying to perceive it like this? And then this pick and mix and match type of curriculum that is made, a book here and a book here, this and that. So for example, I asked somebody once, what is the relevance of al-aqidatu tahawiyya and al-aqidatu wasatiyya? And why is tahawiyya before al-wasatiyya, or why is al-wasatiyya before al-tahawiyya in your curriculum? And you have no idea. No idea. It's quiet. I said, is there any relevance between the two books? And the person was quiet. I said, tell me the relevance of why has this been placed in your curriculum? From what angle are you coming from? Is it just like you like tahawiyya is something which is known, and wasatiyya is something which is known? The mix and match sweets that you like, they look nice, so they must taste nice, so let's just put this here, put this here, put this here, put this here. Is this how knowledge is perceived? Oh, wallahi, this is not how knowledge is perceived. So, the student of knowledge must not be hasty. So you've got to understand one thing, which is very important, is that knowledge cannot be obtained or learned by being hasty. Knowledge does not come with hastiness. Hastiness and knowledge are the two opposites, like fire and water. So you can't go to sleep today and then go and do 2-3 weekend courses and then expect yourself to be able to discuss issues on usul and that, just because you've even memorized them. Just say you've even, for the sake of Allah, you've even memorized them, that you're able to implement. It is for this reason that I see that many in the West have memorized principles, but they don't know how to apply them correctly. And they've tried to apply these principles, and they've made a catastrophe has come out of it because of not understanding the principle correctly, referring back to the people of knowledge. And this is an ongoing issue that we have in the West. So the student of knowledge must not be hasty, rather he should be patient. So we've got to understand that patience, sabr, and the student of knowledge being sabir, a person who is patient when seeking knowledge, is the way forward, is the true student of knowledge, is the successful seeker of knowledge. And being hasty, al-Ujla, or being hasty meaning ajil or musta'jil, like they say, is something which is so detrimental that it's going to destroy this person. He's not going to get anywhere when it comes to seeking knowledge. So we need to understand this. We need to understand that a student of knowledge must not be hasty, rather he should be patient and understand that seeking knowledge requires a sufficient amount of time. Nothing can be fast-tracked. The reason for this is that the required time and sufficient amount of time will result in seeking knowledge properly and correctly. So if you're patient if you do in the hours and the days and the months and the years, you give in that sufficient amount of time, then the result of that knowledge that you learn is that the end result will be that that knowledge will be learned properly and correctly. So the student of knowledge gradually takes the steps of seeking knowledge, just like the ladder. Many of my teachers used to say, the shuyukh used to say to me, that seeking knowledge is like climbing a ladder. You can't start climbing at the top of the ladder. You have to start to climb from the bottom of the ladder, and you have to step on the first step. So the student of knowledge gradually, bitadarruj, takes the steps of seeking knowledge. So there's no fast track or skipping, and follows the path of the people of knowledge. So your path of seeking knowledge, your course of seeking knowledge, should be parallel to the people of knowledge who came before us. If your path and their path is identical, and you see that you're doing the same things that they used to do, and you're doing exactly how they were learning, taking everything gradually in a process, then know that you are upon goodness. But if you compare your path, you think that you can seek knowledge by doing a degree in Islamic studies from a university and doing a master's somewhere, or even a PhD, and that now has fast-tracked you, and now you're a person of knowledge. That know that you don't see the scholars making or adhering to the criteria of possessing knowledge by having a master's or a BA or even a PhD. Do we see this? So let me give you an example. So I went to one of the universities in the West, and it was a master's of Art in Islamic Studies, and it's the top university at that time. It was #1 in England. And the students that were studying there were people whose major was not al-Islam. Somebody had studied biology and decided that they wanted to change and come and do Islamic studies. Some of them could not even read a sentence of Arabic properly. And then at the end of the year, by submitting their essays, which is the medium of being assessed, so as long as they are articulate and they meet the criteria of the essay where the ticks are ticked, this person is going to get a first class degree, master's, and they're going to write MA of Islamic Studies. Now, if this is the criteria that is going to be for seeking knowledge of a 1 year master's full-time or a 2 years part-time master's, and that's why you have a lot of these people who flash out. I don't seem to understand that a person who claims to be a person of the Sunnah, I'm not talking about the heretics, the Muqtadiyah, I'm talking about a person who claims to be a person of the Sunnah, a person who's upon the Aqidah of al-Sunnah, a person who's upon the way of the people of Hadith, and then he goes and studies Islam at a Kafir university, and then with pride writes that he has an MA in Islamic Studies, and then he thinks that he can come forward and start lecturing. This is a catastrophe. Wallahi, this is a catastrophe. So don't be duped with these MAs and these BAs and these PhDs. Trust me, they mean nothing. Especially in kuffar universities, I can tell you they mean completely nothing. Are you following what I'm saying? Or is this too much, or am I making no sense? I'm just waffling away here. Am I talking nonsense? Or am I talking reality? I need an honest response and opinion from you students. Because I get criticized when I say these things and people don't like them. People don't like them when I speak like this. They think I'm defaming them. But I'm just talking factual here. Girls who can't even don't even know how to read Quran, and men who don't know how to read Quran are going to be awarded with MA in Islamic studies and be taken as an authority and a reference to refer back to. And I talk about those who claim to be Salafis. They proudly write that they did, their PhDs and their masters in kuffar universities. This discusses, wallahi, I get disgusted myself. I can't say about what's in their hearts or why they do it. I would never see that as a criteria first, and would not be proud to write something like that next to my name, in the sense that people see that as a criteria to acknowledge something from me. So the issue here is that the soul of knowledge gradually takes the steps of seeking knowledge, and there is no fast track or skipping, and follows the path of the people of knowledge by learning with gentleness and tranquility. Look at this. You study ilm with gentleness and tranquility. Itumanina. Not that you got to submit this essay and you got to submit that essay, and you seek knowledge with tumanina. This is why we've had 9 or 10 lessons, and I'm not bothered. People probably some students here probably think that this guy waffles around, and what's the point of studying? When we're going to study the book? When we keep saying al-Usul, al-Thalathah and this? When we're going to study this book? So request all the brothers and sisters to join our Twitter and our Instagram account so that you can keep updated. And we post a lot of the posts, alhamdulillah, of the speech and the statements of the scholars, so that you can benefit. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. And we shall meet next week again if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills.